Part 1. Post-Communist China. Chapter 1. Mao Zedong's Political Legacy and Deng Xiaoping's Political Resources. Section 1. The End of the Cultural Revolution and the Collapse of Mao's Dream of Hereditary Succession. The gloom of January 1976 reached its peak in the early hours of the 8th. As the pale light of that cold dawn gradually faded, it took with it the dimming life of Zhou Enlai, one of the Chinese Communist Party's heavyweight figures. For people at the time, Zhou's death might have simply signified regret and sorrow. But today, history, in its clarity and purity, brings warmth to generations of Chinese people who have been deceived and manipulated by lies. When they reflect once again on Zhou Enlai's passing, emotion gives way to reason. Among the Chinese people, the wise and the prescient, through books by scholars like Chang and various articles about the Cultural Revolution, have come to a sober and conscious realization: Zhou Enlai had to die before Mao Zedong. As early as 1972, when Zhou discovered he had bladder cancer, Mao had already recognized this as a God-given opportunity, an ideal moment for his greatest political rival to exit the stage before he himself was endangered. Nevertheless, Mao was determined to accelerate this outcome. Leveraging his exclusive authority over Zhou's medical diagnosis and treatment, Mao signaled his unwavering intent that Zhou must die. He refused to allow Zhou to undergo surgery, citing Zhou's advanced age and the claim that he could not withstand the pain and trauma of an operation. As a result, Zhou lost two of the most critical years of his life in vain. By 1974, Zhou was terminally ill. Blood clots caused by the bladder cancer blocked his urethra, making urination so difficult that he would jump in pain in his office. When Zhou's medical team consulted Mao on the treatment plan, Mao still insisted that diagnosis and treatment be carried out in two separate steps. However, the medical team acted with at least a measure of humanitarian concern. During the diagnosis, they removed the tumor. Mao was furious. But in 1974, Mao too was diagnosed with a fatal illness, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, (LS), a neurological disorder with unknown cause, and one that inevitably leads to death within 2 years. Thus began an unspoken and unembellished race to outlive the other, a long march without deception. In the end, Zhou lost this final contest. The story of Mao harming Zhou is by no means a wild fantasy. It is a well-known fact that without Zhou Enlai's assistance, Mao Zedong's hold on power would have been inconceivable. To understand this, one must look at the broader context of the global communist movement. Communism, as a doctrine, is a utopian ideological system. As a political movement, it served, at least for a considerable period, as a path through which the oppressed working class in the capitalist world sought to claim their rights. Both aspects of communism have, at various points in human history, made significant and undeniable contributions. This is why people often say that two men saved capitalism. The first was Karl Marx. His thorough critique of capitalism jolted capital owners into awareness. Standing on the brink of economic crises, they saw the need to reform capitalism by limiting the rights of capital owners and expanding the power of capital managers. This formed the theoretical basis for the gradual rise of managerial elites starting in the early 20th century. The second was John Maynard Keynes, who discovered a way to alleviate economic crises by using monetary policy to create inflation and redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor. Naturally, such acts could only be carried out by the government. Thus, this came to be known euphemistically as macroeconomics. In fact, Keynes' thinking, like Marx's, shared a systemic perspective. Both tried to address issues at the institutional and structural level. In this light, it was capitalism, not communism, that ultimately benefited most from communist theory. However, as a political system, communism is arguably the most brutal, reactionary, shameless, deceitful, and unjustifiable system ever to appear in human history. This is because it derives its legitimacy from a utopian theoretical framework. It begins by deducing that communism is the destined form of future society, and then claims to represent that future. By claiming to embody the future, it thereby claims to represent the present, and asserts that the regime it establishes is legitimate by definition. Thus, the correctness of the outcome is used to justify the entirety of the process, no matter how vile. Everything despicable and disgraceful along the way must be concealed, and all that is ugly and rotten must be whitewashed. The scatological legitimacy of utopia necessitates a mode of political power and operation that is driven not primarily by violence, but by lies. Violence is only used periodically. The real engine of this system is deception. Those who are skilled in lies hold far greater value and power in such a regime than those skilled in violence. Zhou Enlai was, in both Chinese and global political history, an unparalleled master of deception. And communist politics most desperately requires individuals like him. Mao Zedong, having amassed vast political experience throughout his life, cannot possibly have failed to recognize that Zhou Enlai was an indispensable figure for the realization of his political ambitions. Zhou Enlai was gentle and refined in manner, with kind eyes and a benevolent face, always polite and diplomatic, giving the impression of a consummate peacemaker and a complete humanitarian. However, anyone with even a modest understanding of party history would know that Zhou Enlai never hesitated when it came to critical moments. He never showed the slightest mercy. Back in the days of underground work in Shanghai, after Gu Shenzhong defected, Zhou personally ordered the execution of 16 individuals, Gu's close relatives and subordinates, all sent to meet their end. In 1955, during the Bandung Conference, a nationalist agent planted a time bomb on the aircraft Kashmir Princess, which was scheduled to carry the Chinese delegation. The Chinese communist leadership had already uncovered the plot. Yet Zhou, prioritizing his personal safety, switched to another plane without informing the rest of the delegation. In doing so, he sacrificed the lives of more than a dozen innocent Chinese and foreign personnel as pawns in a deadly ruse to mislead the enemy. Zhou survived, but they perished as scapegoats. During the purges of Gao Gang and Rao Shushi, Zhou stood firmly among the attackers. When Pang Dehuai was persecuted, he watched the political winds and said not a word of truth. During the Cultural Revolution, Zhou played a duplicitous role. While appearing compassionate and mournful, he effectively supported Mao's reckless tyranny. He played a pivotal role in the downfall of Liu Shaoqi, leveling 3 grave charges against him: traitor, spy, and labor faker. Later, when Mao needed Lin Biao to fall as well, Zhou was once again on the front lines, acting as a key enforcer. Did it ever cross his mind that once everyone else had been purged, and he alone remained, there would be no one left to speak on his behalf? That is uncertain. But one thing is clear. In his final days, he came to a profound realization. It was he who had helped establish Mao's supreme leadership, and in doing so, he had forged the tragic path of his own fate. Zhou Enlai was an unprecedented and unparalleled master of deception, the embodiment and the very machine of lies. His greatest lie was cloaking himself in personal charm and humanistic finesse, presenting himself as the most humane and compassionate figure within the ranks of the Communist Party. He was an expert performer, a consummate actor skilled in disguise, adept at sensing the emotional needs buried deep within others, and cunning at seizing upon their private vulnerabilities and weaknesses. He would feign sympathy and discretion, but in truth, use these very weaknesses to control and manipulate others at will. 2 specific incidents vividly and precisely illustrate Zhou Enlai's character and personality. The first concerns He Long, a senior party figure who was neither part of the French train faction, nor the armed struggle faction, nor the so-called white area urban faction. During the early stages of the Cultural Revolution, He Long was purged. Zhou Enlai cannot escape blame for this. He was one of the enforcers, actively pushing the movement forward and personally taking part in it. And yet, at He Long's memorial service, when Zhou's feet were so swollen that he couldn't even wear shoes, he still appeared at the event, crying bitterly and exclaiming, "Shui Ming, I have wronged you." His dramatic performance moved the entire venue to tears. The deception was complete. The second case involves Su Shiyu, a legendary figure in the party. Su was an extreme alcoholic, but also a highly sociable man who often forced his guests to drink during banquets, earning widespread resentment. Zhou Enlai, of course, would never let such an opportunity go to waste. He invited Su to drink with him. It is said that the 2 of them drank 2 full bottles of Maotai each. Zhou remained calm and composed, while Su was dead drunk. Zhou used this occasion both to discipline Su and to win favor among those who disapproved of Su's behavior, a classic example of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. By now, what kind of man Zhou Enlai truly was is crystal clear. If Mao Zedong had been a true Marxist and a committed communist, he might have regarded Zhou Enlai as his best friend and most trusted comrade. Unfortunately, Mao Zedong not only lacked a genuine understanding of Marxism, but also paid only lip service to communism while betraying its principles and practice. He was, in essence, a quintessential representative of Chinese-style centralist autocracy and a despotic usurper. His entire life was a living embodiment of the traditional Chinese political structure and operational logic. China's political system is a unique and grotesque hybrid of three elements. First, political power in China has historically been seized through tyrannical usurpation, that is, wresting control from previous rulers by force, much like the tyrants described by Aristotle, or the short-lived emperors of the Five Dynasties and Ten Kingdoms period who came and went with the flash of a blade. Power was taken by the sword, not given by law. Second, once power was secured, it was passed down through monarchical inheritance. Whoever ascended the throne would go to great lengths to ensure the succession of their own offspring, seeking to perpetuate their genetic line. Only in extraordinary cases would power be transferred to a non-heir, such as when Xiaoping, the founder of the Song dynasty, passed the throne to his brother under pressure from their mother. Yet even that rare precedent was soon reversed. His successor, Emperor Taizong Shaoqi, ensured that power would stay within his direct lineage. From then on, primogeniture or imperial favoritism became the norm. Chinese history is essentially a cycle of power seized by usurpation and sustained through hereditary monarchy. The Qing dynasty, after Emperor Xuanzhi Flin came to the throne, also followed this monarchical logic. Third, the legitimacy of rule was grounded in shamanistic and mythic cultural beliefs, what American historians John King Fairbank and Roderick McFarher described in their monumental work The Origins of the Cultural Revolution as the Chinese concept of the mandate of heaven. Whoever unified China would mysteriously develop a psychological conviction that they were the heaven-appointed ruler, possessing divine authority to command at will, to speak with absolute weight, and to act without question.